Buckle in because I'm excited about this one. Recently someone said in my presence, and I quote, "People don't really care about Childe anymore. With Zhao and Ganyu, he's nowhere near the highest DPS anymore." Now you see, my reaction to that is what one may call heated, because he may not be your highest DPS anymore, but if you are over him, you're wrong. Tartaglia's backstory is exquisite, and he's one of the few characters we have almost promised to be important to the central conflict of the story. So, you prepare to get learned. Childe was born as Ajax after a famous hero in a small Snezhnayan village called Morepesok. He had a big, loving family as the third son with 3 younger siblings, and his dad was an adventurer. They had a father-son tradition of going ice fishing, where they would fill the time with tales of his father's adventures. Ajax was enthralled, and like I'm sure many of us can relate to, envisioned himself as the hero in those stories. And that idea took hold. Ajax decided that he wanted to be a hero, and got it in his head that it was a great idea to go run into the forest at 14 with a bag of bread and a sword. So he did. As we might expect, it did not go well. He was chased by wolves and bears, and while running for his life, the earth opened up beneath him. He fell in and down, down, down he went into the abyss. While in the abyss, he was trained by a girl named Skirk in combat. He also encountered a beast that chilled him to the bone. There's plenty of space to speculate that Skirk is Lumine, who we know is also a girl living in the abyss, but right now I'm operating under the assumption that they're different people. For one, why would Lumine bother changing her name while talking to Ajax? And then secondly, Mihio is trying pretty hard to make sure everything in-game is compatible with playing either twin as MC. Content creators often prefer to use Ether as MC and Lumine as Abyss Princess just because that's what seems to be canonical, but Mihio has changed genders whenever they can, with a few typos, to make whichever twin you're not playing the one in the Abyss. Neither Childe's name card nor his voice line that mentions Skirk do that, leading me to think that she's female regardless of which twin you're playing. There's a third point to this about how it's ambiguous whether Lumine lives in the Abyss but is separate from its inherent nature, or if we can treat the Abysses and Lumine's goals as one and the same, but that gets into things like Dainsleif, Khaenri'ah, the Cataclysm, big topics. So let me know if you're interested in a video focused on what the Abyss is and how it relates to Lumine's goals. For right now, it's enough to know that I'm treating them as different people, but that I also kind of think they might be the same person and the jury is just out. Godwig, you could have just said that and saved us all a solid minute. So 14-year-old Ajax is in the Abyss. He spends 3 months there under Skirk's tutelage, but when he gets out, we don't know how, he just does, it has only been 3 days in the overworld. This is an important note, this 3 months to 3 days thing, because we really don't know what the Abyss is. Is it a physical place in Pylos Peak, like Celestia is a physical place in the sky? Is it an alternate universe, since these stories talk about another ancient world and we know that Genshin exists in a multiverse? We have the same question for all domains. What realm do they exist in? But this time stream discrepancy is worth keeping an eye out for more information on, especially with all the possibilities around a god of time, and Paimon maybe being the god of time, and yeah, wibbly wobbly time shit, keep an eye out. Ajax after the Abyss is different. Obviously, right? He spent a lot of time in a horrific place, and trauma changes a person, especially a 14-year-old. He used to be frightened and hesitant, and his father worried about him. Now he's frivolous and confident, a nexus of strife who brings conflict wherever he goes. His sleepy hometown didn't know what to do with him, so they sent him to the military, hoping it would knock some sense into him. Unfortunately, the Fatui just made him worse, and his martial ability and bloodlust saw him rocket through the ranks until he was promoted to Harbinger. Speaking of becoming Harbinger, they don't give us a vision story. He gets a delusion story instead. It's kind of cool. Tells us who the first of the Harbingers is, has a nice poetic line about how Tartaglia doesn't follow the Tsaritsa for battles or glory, but because he respects her as a fellow warrior. But do you know what it notably does not include? His vision story! We know that he got his delusion from the Fatui. Duh! I don't know how he got his vision. That's what I want. Before he went into the Abyss? After, when his bloodlust drove him to kill everything around him, it was only his own willpower that stayed his hand. His desire to not hurt. I was robbed. Anyway, Ajax becomes a Harbinger. He takes the name Tartaglia in service of his Tsaritsa and is deployed to Liyue. We could stop here, at a summary of his character stories, but are you here for a superficial overview? I'm not. I have an agenda, and my agenda is this. When Ajax went into the Abyss, he brought it back with him. His troublemaking ways post-Abyss isn't just simply due to psychological trauma. I propose that he was tainted by the Abyss, corrupted, marked. And here's why. Child has two sides. This sunshine bright, doting brother who speaks of defending dreams and keeping promises. He prefers to be forthright and leave the weak out of his battles, is responsible and meticulous. He sends home letters signed, "Your loyal knight." He's also a murder boy who craves the sight of blood. I think well-developed characters should have internal inconsistencies, because real people are self-contradictory and a character who is too logical comes off as contrived. But this isn't just incongruous, it's incompatible. How does a young man with a bright smile and eternal love for his family, so quiet as a child that his father worried for him, coexist with a murderous freakazoid who wants to conquer the world? Either he went literally insane and turned into Dexter, or the spicier story. When Ajax looked into the eyes of the Abyss, a beast that not only lived there but was part of it, it corrupted him. His next training with Skirk, there was something more savage in him. He was not simply training so he could get stronger. He wanted to see these monsters' limbs splayed across the ground. He wants to feel their flesh give way under his sword and watch the light leave their eyes. When he suddenly returns home, the savagery stays with him. The monotony made him run away in the first place. He always hated it. But now it's more than restlessness. He's agitated. His eyes follow people as they walk, a hunter stalking prey. But he's not surrounded by beasts anymore. These are just people who don't deserve to die. These are his siblings who can never, ever see this darkness in him. So he begins to train at the lake, in hours of silence spent ice fishing. It's not relaxing anymore. He hates it, actually. Nothing moves, nothing happens. Hours and hours and hours of nothing, watching birds take flight nearby and imagining ripping the wings off with his hands. Ajax uses that stillness. He needs to learn to control this thing inside him so he can hide it from his siblings, from the world. Later, it comes in handy when the Tsaritsa asks for diplomacy and he needs that control. It's hard to suppress constantly, though. It needs an outlet, so he picks fights, looks for any excuse to throw a punch. Eventually, it gets him sent to the Fatui. Tartaglia doesn't remember not having the Abyss in him. He knows he must have been without it at some point. Remembers that he was 14 when he found the Abyss. But he can't remember existing without feeling it nestled in his soul. It's always there, a buzzing beneath his skin as he smiles at the people of Liyue. Conquer the world, the Abyss whispers to him, its own desires weaved into his mind.
Dearest sister, I've been away for so long, I've almost forgotten the cold of our home. You know I grow restless when life is ordinary and boring.
The child we get, naturally friendly, a sweet person who can talk joyously about killing for you on your birthday and be bored by the dearth of prey available, is the product of years spent with those two sides coexisting. Rather than constantly struggling to suppress the abyssal mark, he's blended the parts together into the ray of sunshine who loves to kill. It's pretty well substantiated by his backstory, but there's gameplay evidence of this too. The child boss fight has 3 phases: normal, delusion, and foul legacy. I see a lot of people assume that foul legacy is part of his delusion, but that's inconsistent with what we know of delusions from the manga. It's also contradicted by the lore text of one of his item drops, Shard of a Foul Legacy, which hints heavily at being unrelated to his delusion, and his name card description puts a stake in it, saying that foul legacy was taught to him by a girl living in the Abyss, his master Skirk. I want to take a moment here to be one of those people, the "I did this before it was cool" people, because this idea was born the very day 1.1 live, when Mihayo posted Child's miscellany video with the damning quote.
Few know where Tartaglia acquired his fighting skills before becoming a harbinger. Nor do many know where his lust for combat originates. There is a dangerous secret to the martial legacy he inherits, but it is one that even he himself does not fully understand.
Tell me honestly that this does not make you go, Because I, for one, saw that sentence, broke into tears for a moment, and then went straight to, allow me to perform substantiating research, because an inherited martial legacy that he does not understand, which is the origination of his lust for combat. Skirk taught him foul legacy? Does a transformation that physically changes your form and damages you sound like teaching, or does it sound like bestowing an ancient curse? This pretty much says right here that the Abyss did something that changed him, because I don't know how else to take dangerous secret that not even he fully understands. The follow-up question is, why? What did the Abyss do and why bother? Stories say that the Dark Realm sensed the burning ambition in this boy's heart, and I think that's important because notice how his goals change. Ajax ran into the forest because he wanted to be a hero. He couldn't stand the monotony of village life. He wanted to be more, and it was real foolish, but he took action to make it happen. That's burning ambition, but Child's voice lines say nothing about becoming a hero. Why does he want to conquer the world now? TBH, that sounds like something the Abyss wants.
It is chaos, and it is also destruction. It is a morass of inconceivable madness that encroaches upon this world's very foundations, and the creatures of the Abyss desire nothing less than the overthrow of a world ruled by the Archons.
They are from the Abyss Order, an organization comprised of non-human beings. They despise mankind. I don't know where they come from. All I know is that they hold deep hatred toward the human world.
But until the Abyss has engulfed the thrones, my war with destiny will see no end.
Okay, I think you see what I'm getting at here. The Abyss is madness. It wants to take over the human world. It took a boy for 3 months and he came out with a compulsive need to fight, and he wants to conquer the world. There are still problems with my argument. Child definitely got some weird juju from the Abyss, aka foul legacy, but how can I say that his trouble-mongering nature afterward is a soul mark and not just a kid who went through some shit? Well, that was my exact concern, and it's why I'm talking about it now, a week before 1.4, instead of way back in 1.1. 1.3 gave us 2 new pieces of information that took me from, oh, well, I have this pet theory, to fuckers, I am right. The first was the Living Beings archive, because Child's entry says he is a pure warrior with an insatiable lust for battle. Each bloody conflict, each life and death struggle is a delightful trial to him. People say that the young child is famed throughout the land for his battle prowess, but he's never taken big talk of this kind to heart. After all, and this is the important part to me, this last italicized portion, and you shall ever be in the eye of the storm, and the clashing of steel shall ever accompany you. The pitch-black memory of stepping into uttermost darkness shall, at last, become the strength by which you will overturn this world. That sounds like a curse, don't it? He shall ever be the eye of the storm, much like how he was a nexus of strife that his father sent to the military to try and tame. Much like the other Harbingers try to get him sent on missions far away from them so that they can avoid his unwanted trouble. Much like his mission in Liyue wasn't at all to get Zhongli's gnosis, they just needed enough chaos to satisfy Zhongli that Liyue could handle themselves. And the uttermost blackness shall become the strength by which he will overturn the world. They, Skirk, told him to overturn the world, and now he claims that's what he wants. This curse takes his behavior after the Abyss released him and makes it not just him, but something the Abyss told him to be. And Child doesn't fully understand that, so he's running around thinking he's doing what he wants, unknowingly working towards the Abyss's goals. The other thing that 1.3 gave me is Zhao's stories. My whole shebang hinges on the possibility of possession, kind of. That the Abyss could put a soul mark on Child and change his very being such that he believes it's simply part of himself. It explains a lot of his story, but it's kind of out there in a universe that doesn't have any indication of changing people's souls. We know Genshin has souls and ghosts, but it's a pretty big leap to go from souls exist to the Abyss can corrupt them. Then I read Zhao's stories, and they do! They gave me the precedent! The core of Zhao's stories is his karmic debt, which in some manner is figurative. He has spent millennia in slaughter, and that has stained him. But there's also an actual, literal effect on him. His stories say that after so long spent in proximity with the wrathful remnants of evil gods, they corrupted his soul. Long exhausted, Zhao felt the divine hatred that tainted his body take effect. Limitless hate flooded his senses, and he fell to the ground in agony. In his story quest, Zhao takes responsibility for the corrupted Hilichurls, saying that it was his own corruption that caused them, so he is now so tainted that he can corrupt others just as the evil remnants corrupted him. Now, when I want to say that child was corrupted by the Abyss, my dears, precedent goes a long way. Okay, so, a lot in here, I know. What it comes down to is, Ajax fell into the Abyss and came out a warrior. He became a legendary killer, earning him a place among the Harbingers and with it the name Tartaglia. He uses his vision by default, his gift from the Tsaritsa when the going gets tough, but when he gets really angry or desperate, he can call on the Abyss. Clearly, I think it's even more than that. I think he's unknowingly corrupted by the Abyss and acting in its interests. Considering how strongly Dainsleif felt about the madness of the Abyss and how bound up in it Lumine is, that has got to be something highlighted for us in the future of the story. Now, I am expecting this to be a pretty hot take, so I'm excited to see what you think. Definitely let me know. As always, hit me up with your comments, questions, concerns, and criticisms, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye! Hey, I just want to throw in a thank you for everyone's encouragement. I'm having a ton of fun with this project, and the positive feedback really feeds my motivation. So I very much appreciate everyone's comments. Thank you all very much. Last note, if I'm being honest, I'm actually pretty proud of this video. It's the first one I can look at and be like, I like this. So pretty please let me know what you think of the style and content, and yeah, I will finally shut up now. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.